Today I'm taking a look at e-scooters and reviewing the Riley RS2. Are they a good way to get around? Are they eco-friendly? And should you buy one? First, a bit of background. I first used an e-scooter in Paris a couple of years ago. It was a rental and I loved it. What a wonderfully exhilarating way for a tourist to get about and see a city. They really are terrific fun. But they're also a bit controversial. Others argue that they're desperately antisocial and only slightly less dangerous than skiing down the north face of the Eiger. Only last weekend, Peter Hitchens warned in the Mail on Sunday of hospitals and cemeteries filling with e-scooter accident victims in such vast numbers that maybe those Nightingale hospitals are going to have a use after all. That kind of slightly hysterical hyperbole is pretty commonplace these days. After all, we do live in an era of zero tolerance of any risk. Of anything. It is just no longer okay to hurt yourself or die before you're at least 300 years old. And to make sure you don't, you now have to put on a helmet and high-vis before you even get up in the morning. So it is perhaps unsurprising that here in the UK, the courts have classified private electric scooters in the same way as cars, which means you can't legally ride them on a public road, or on the pavement for that matter, or whilst drunk. Hang on a minute, I thought that was the whole point of an e-scooter. Anyway, the penalties can be surprisingly high. Although most police apparently turn a blind eye, you can get 6 penalty points for riding one on the road. And if you're caught drink scooting, you're in a lot more trouble. Earlier this year, a young woman was banned from the roads for 2 years in order to do 40 hours unpaid work when she reportedly went through a red light and narrowly, which in this case probably means by a wide margin, missed an unmarked police car in Newport. That's Newport on the Isle of Wight. Population 4. I'm amazed they even have a police car on the Isle of Wight, let alone an unmarked one. Anyway, her lawyer argued that she was travelling so slowly she wouldn't have been a danger to the other 3 inhabitants of Newport. But the magistrates were having none of it. As far as they were concerned, a scooter is a motor vehicle. The same as a moped, the same as a bus. I'm not sure about that. I think if I were to climb behind the wheel of a London bus after a good night out, I'd cause a lot more damage than I could ever do on an e-scooter. But anyway, here I am with a new gadget which I can't legally review on a public road. Luckily though, there's a private one near here which I can go and film on. I've also found a stunt double prepared to demonstrate a couple of things on a public road. By the way, if you enjoy this review, do click the subscribe button below. Now, first things first, I like the name Riley. It's a brand that makes you think of quintessentially English 1930s cars, and the logo is obviously a throwback. In the instruction book, it even says proudly British on the second page, which I guess must refer to the company's CEO, because like everything else on the planet these days, the Riley here is made in China. Now that's no bad thing though. The word China used to be synonymous with cheap knockoff, but that's just not the case anymore. I keep buying things made in China and thinking, gosh, that's well made. And that's exactly what I thought about the Riley when it arrived. It looks and feels very solid and very nicely put together. For your £499, you get a lightweight aluminium frame, 10-inch inflatable wheels with a 350-watt motor built into the front one, and a disc brake on the back. You get LED lights front and rear, and you also get a detachable Panasonic battery with a claimed 28-mile range. So what's it like to ride? I've come to a private road near where I live to find out. To start it up, you press and hold the power button for 2 seconds, then squeeze the throttle, kick off, and you're away. Quite quickly you're up to 25 kilometers an hour or 15.5 miles an hour in proper money. You steer by shifting your weight, and this thing's really quite maneuverable. Next I'm going to check out the brakes. I put a white stripe on the road down over there. I'm going to go and get up to full speed, jam on the brakes as I get over the line, and we'll see how quickly I can stop. Well, there we go. That's a lot further than I thought. From the front wheel, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, 6 meters, which is quite a distance. Now, what will be interesting to see now is, does it make any difference if I use the pedal brake on the back at the same time? Well, that looks like pretty much exactly the same. Now we're going to do a test to see how well this thing performs on hills. My iPhone here has got an inclinometer on it, and it tells me that there's about a 6-degree slope here. Further down the hill it drops to about 3 degrees. So we'll see how we get on. Now unfortunately, of course, this is a public road, so I've had to call in a stunt double. As our stuntman comes around the corner, he's doing about 20 kilometers an hour, but quite quickly that drops off to about 18, 17, 16, 9, 8, down to about 5 kilometers now, 4. Everyone, please don't do this at home. Remember, this guy's had years of training. He's down to about 3 kilometers now, barely able to stand on the scooter. In the same price bracket as this Riley, you could choose from the Pure Air Pro, the Xiaomi Pro 2, or for a little less, the Ninebot Segway E25E. However, I still think my hill test pretty much rules out the Xiaomi and the Ninebot, especially for 90-kilogram blokes like me, because they both have smaller motors, smaller wheels, and lower load capacities. So it's really a shootout between the Pure Air Pro and the RS2. And there's really only a whisker between them. The Pure Air Pro is officially IP65 waterproof, whereas the RS2 here is only IP54 splashproof. But the Riley here has a 28-mile range versus only 22.4 on the Pure Air Pro. Riley tells me the only reason theirs is not IP65 is because of its detachable battery, but it's fine to ride in the rain. So on balance, for me, the Riley here wins it. Now coming back to the original question, are e-scooters a good way to get around? Well, they're not entirely without risk. ROSPA, that's the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents, kindly supplied me with some interesting stats. In America, one study found there were 7,700 visits to A&E departments and 1 fatality associated with e-scooters in 2017. But by 2019, that had risen to 27,700 visits and 21 fatalities. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But to put it into perspective, about 800 cyclists die each year in the US, and in 2013 they were the cause of around 500,000 hospital visits. Now, I joked earlier about the risk-averse world we live in. My own wife is the queen of high-vis, and I rib her mercilessly about it. But actually, looking at the accident data, I think it is worth taking 3 steps to reduce, if not entirely eliminate, your chances of winding up in A&E. The first, and absolutely most important thing, is to leave enough space to stop. Try it out on your own scooter or rental. Get it up to full speed and then pull on the brakes as hard as you can and see how quickly you can bring it to a halt. The next thing is to wear bright clothing and perhaps one of those reflective stripes. Or dare I say it, perhaps even some high-vis. And always switch your scooter lights on, because anything which means that a driver sees you even a few milliseconds earlier is going to be worth it. Finally, think about wearing a helmet. Personally, I would wear one if I was navigating traffic. because it's probably going to hurt less if I end up eating someone's windscreen wipers. I think if you do these things, e-scooters are a great way to get around. They're invigorating and they're really good fun. Are they eco-friendly? Well, that does depend. If you're using it instead of a car, then of course, unquestionably. A car uses 1 kilowatt hour of energy to get it less than a mile down the road. With the same 1 kilowatt hour on a scooter, you could travel 80 miles. Should you get one? Well, e-scooters are not likely to be legalized for the public road in the next few weeks, and maybe not ever. Trials are still expected to continue into 2022, so it is very much at your own risk. But hopefully the police will continue to turn a blind eye to people who are riding them safely. If you know anyone who's thinking about buying an e-scooter, you might like to share this film with them. Otherwise, till the next time, I've been Arlo Guthrie. Bye-bye.